Okay. Good evening, Facebook friends. Once again, we are on another Monday evening talking about things. We are privileged to have Dr. Patrece Charles speaking about. She's a counseling psychologist, and we'll be speaking this evening on living with the mentally unwell. I don't like to say mental illness, right? Because many persons don't see it as illness. So I like to say mentally unwell, because most of us don't see most of us see mental illness as somebody walking on the street dirty. And as we know, that's not necessarily so. We're going to wait just 2 more minutes for persons to join, because I don't want anybody to miss this wealth of information. I'm hoping that Dr. Charles will just boil it down in a way that we can understand what we are dealing with on a daily basis, because we tend not to look on mental unwellness as a true sickness unless something is broken, cut, unless we're lying down, doubled up in pain. Persons don't see it as being unwell or as an illness. And we tend to trivialize mental illness. And that is one of the illnesses that, it's very difficult to live with. And people suffer under this kind of stigma. And we want to get rid of it, because really and truly, Boss Lady Live is about living our best lives, bringing the information to you and to encourage you to be aware of what is around you, be aware of what could be happening to your family members, be aware of what could be happening to you, because the symptoms, some early symptoms could be, happening to you. So, okay, we are at what time? Facebook family and YouTube family, please like and share with a friend, share with everybody who you know on your page. Let them tune in to this very important conversation about mental unwellness. Good evening, Dr. Charles.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, can you just give us a little overview of who you are and what you do on a daily basis? And so, just to kick off our conversation so that they know that you're fully qualified to speak on this subject.
Okay, I am a counseling psychologist, specialize in marriage and family, trauma counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy. I work a lot with children and behavioral disorders. I actually work a lot with couples dealing with the exact same topic that you're speaking about. Trying to figure out what's going on in their relationship and why it's so unbalanced and how they can get it all together. Right. I've been practicing from 2010, and I am the CEO and lead counselor for the Phoenix Counseling Center, and we're located on 10.5 Lady Musgrave Road. What else do you want to know, Sandra?
All right, as we go along, I guess we'll know. We'll hear other things. Now, Doc, many persons, well, in the media, a lot of talk is there about narcissism, depression during COVID, bipolar disorder, and many of us don't even know what that looks like.
Right.
So, and I want to implore my Facebook and my YouTube family. Doc only has 1 hour. It's not the regular running over into 2 hours. Doc only has 1 hour. So please don't wait until we are near to the end to ask those serious burning questions, because most times they wait until after we are finished to ask the questions, and at that point we can't answer again. So
Matter
I'm
of fact,
asking you.
lead with it sometimes, you know. So take me in a direction right away where you want to go. I was like,
So
take me
I'm
in a
going to
direction.
start with one. Yes, yes, I plan to do that. So what I want us to start with is narcissism, because I've gotten a lot of questions on, or I posted some stuff on narcissism and bipolar disorder, and a lot of statements, I should say, not questions, but statements came up about
Right.
persons living with narcissists. With some of the posts that I made during the week was saying that narcissists are difficult to live with. They are not even aware that they have this disorder. So just give us a little overview on narcissism and where it's coming from. Uh,
Narcissistic personality disorder is it's actually a real life mental health disorder, and you're absolutely right. A lot of people that are narcissists would never ever say, "Oh, I'm a narcissist and I have a mental health disorder," because it's actually the opposite. It's they lack emotional empathy. Um, they focus on self-esteem enhancement, you know, so they, as far as they're concerned, they're always right. They they tell you they don't actually see themselves or other people realistically. So it has to be literally their way or no way at all. But they can be
wow.
very positive. So they can be very charming. They can zoom in on your personality and know what it is that they need to say to you or to do in order to get their way. So the easiest way and the most layman term to describe a narcissistic type of personality or living with somebody with a narcissistic type of personality is that it has to be their way. So whatever it is that they have to do in order to get their way, then they're pretty much willing to do it. They lack consistency. They don't have they're not going to be able to accept blame. So asking a narcissist to apologize for something that they did wrong, well, I don't do wrong. So why would I need
Wow.
for it? You know, so getting into a fight with a narcissist and expecting them to apologize is just really not going to happen. They're
It's
unwilling
like that's not
to
gonna happen.
no, they're unwilling to process that they're wrong and how to process past a fight, and um, so it's well, we'll get to how you live with it, but basically that's that type of narcissistic
Right.
personality. They have an inflated sense of self. They need constant praise, constantly telling them that they are good, constant words of affirmation. They can take advantage of others as long as it works to their best, in their advantage. And they don't really recognize or care about the needs of others because it's really all about them. They have that type of personality. It's all about me.
So how do we spot a narcissist versus, I mean, somebody who's just what we call cocky in Jamaica, what we call cocky, or
You're breaking up.
very self-assured. Difference in identifying someone who is just, you know, have a heightened sense of self versus a narcissist.
You know, a
And can it be
narcissistic
spot early, or it's only when you're deep in it?
they appear to be very confident, They appear to have that kind of arrogance, I kind of know it all type of personality, their own type of self-importance type of personality. But they actually have problem with self-esteem. And they feel
Mm,
vulnerable when they are criticized. So even the smallest type of criticism can get a narcissist type, worked up.
yes.
Um, they always tend to have problems in their personal life, at work, even if they're in a school setting, parenting, especially when they start clashing in that teenage stage, that young adult stage. And a lot of them can feel unhappy and disappointed when other people don't pay that special type of attention to them. So how do you know that you're dealing with a narcissist? Well, remember what I said to you, they can be very charming. They can tell you what you want to hear. So if their end game is to be with you in a certain way,
Okay.
then that is
Okay,
what they
we're
will.
back. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, so what was the last thing you heard me say?
No,
Because
it said, you said, the last thing I heard you say before we chipped out was this parenting. Said something about parenting.
okay, so
Sorry about that.
parenting parenting as a narcissist, or being a child of a narcissist, can be very, very stressful, and it can lead to other mental health issues for that child. It can lead to low self-esteem in that child, because when that parent is ready to tell you that you can't do anything right and you have to do it my way, and that parent is not willing to listen to an opinion of their child, then it can lead to depression in the child. It can lead to low self-esteem, lack of confidence, not wondering if the parent even respects their opinion. I do have children right now in the counseling center that are adults, well, that during their, I have young adults that during their childhood, they had to deal with a narcissistic type of personality in one of their parents, and they realized they got upset with the other parent that wasn't a narcissist because they didn't do anything. They just kind of allowed it to happen, and the way that they were disciplined, and the name calling, and the putting down, and if you can't do it my way, then all of the negativity that would follow really kind of put them in this place where they doubted themselves, and it was difficult for them to move on, because it was ingrained now in their programming that this is how I am. And so now what we're trying to do is reprogram them. Because
Right.
it's programmed in your childhood. So now as an adult, their self-esteem is so low, they don't think that they can do anything. They're very timid to even speak, because their self-esteem is so low, and they think that everything that they do and everything that they say is going to either end up in a failure, or they have to check with somebody to see if
Right.
it's right. So and it's kind of depressing. It's depressing to them, because they can't understand why they're being treated in this way. And people have to understand that it's having this type of personality disorder, it's not going to get better.
So Doc, how does one get to that stage? I mean, growing up as a child, what would have possibly happened in their background for this individual to become narcissistic?
I'm not. I'm not quite sure if it is attributed. If you can attribute it to nature versus nurture, or if it was passed on from one parent to another. If it was due to some kind of trauma experience in a childhood, or what it is. But it is a real. It is a real mental
Disease,
health.
mental health.
It's not just, let's just kind of guess what this is. It is just like bipolar disorder 1 and 2. It is a personality disorder.
And bipolar, well, bipolar is a totally different thing, because that has to do with the highs and lows. Highs and lows.
Mood shifts from highs to lows. So from highs, the highs is the mania, or are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing
Are you
you.
hearing me?
You
Okay,
cut
so what
out
I'm
just a
saying.
little in the beginning, but I'm hearing you now.
Okay, so bipolar disorder is a mental health condition that causes severe mood shifts. So you go from highs, which is the mania or hypomania, to the lows with it, which is the depression. And these mood shifts can be triggered by anything. I consider it to be individualized, because you might not, what might trigger one bipolar disorder person might not trigger the other person. But it can significantly interfere with the quality of life if they're unable to recognize what it is that they have and how to manage it, either through medication and also through cognitive behavioral therapy. Just being able to recognize when they're being triggered, because I do also have a lot of people that have this mental health condition. So working with them to come up with coping skills, even in their relationships, to recognize when they're in a manic state or when they're in a depressed state, and then what it is that they would need to do to either cycle through it quickly, or to manage it when it's happening. To recognize it is the best thing for them to do. Because sometimes they just go through the cycle and they're not knowing what's happening. They're behaving in a certain way. Their family members see them behaving in a certain way. Their co-workers see them being just explosive and not recognizing why they're exploding, because it just doesn't add up. Like whatever to you a while ago, there's no reason for you to respond in that way. So and they go from high to not wanting to come out of bed. What was it that I said to you that's putting you into this state? And so when you're in a relationship with someone that has a bipolar disorder, you literally have to understand what the illness is about. Just like narcissism, and I go back to narcissism, you have to, if you're living with a narcissist, you have to first and foremost understand this person's personality is not going to change. You are not going to be able to say, go to counseling because there's something wrong with you, because a narcissist does not believe that there's anything wrong with them. So asking them to go to counseling because you believe that they have a mental health disorder is just sending them into are you crazy? They're just going to anger them. This is going to make it worse. So you have to understand that it's going to change.
All right. So therefore, a narcissist would never take medication can medication change a narcissist, or you just either have to live with it or keep it moving?
You have to either live with it or keep it moving, because what are you going to say to them? But what are you going to say to them? You're going to say to them, okay, I think you have a mental. Take something for it. Sorry, somebody was calling me.
It's gone again.
I'm gone.
Not seeing you. Yes, not seeing you.
Not sure why I'm gone. Where am I gone?
Oh no, that screen. Yes.
I'm not sure why I'm gone. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you clearly, but I'm not seeing your image at all.
I'm not sure why you're not seeing me either. What would you like me to do? What should I do?
I want to if you should just come out and come back in. Let me invite you back.
Okay.
Folks, we're having some technical difficulties. Just bear with us. As you know, it's just now heating up. Dr. Charles is having a little bit of an issue with our visuals. So just give us a few and we'll be back up and running, because you don't want to miss out on that. We're just speaking about narcissism, living with a narcissist. And boy, that sounds really, we know based on what we have read in the last week. Okay. Okay, here we are. Back again. Yes, Doc.
Okay.
Seeing you clearly now.
Okay.
Yes, you were saying.
What was I saying?
Narcissism. You were saying about narcissism and living with a narcissist and how difficult it is to live with a narcissist. And I was asking if any medication, but they won't take the medication because they don't feel as if they have an issue.
But if you think about it, if I don't think I have an issue, why are you sending me to take
Absolutely.
medication?
Yeah, I get it.
So that is why it's important for if you decide that you want to live with a narcissist, you want to be with this individual, first and foremost, there are some things that you need to understand. You need to understand what being with a narcissist really means. You're not going to fix this person. You're not going to love this person to death and show
them suddenly change
that this person wants you to do, and then he or she is going to automatically see what you're doing and be different. It's not going to happen. You have to understand what is realistically possible and what's not, and what your boundaries are. So first and foremost, when you're with a narcissist, if you are a certain type of person where you need emotional support, understand a narcissist lacks emotional empathy.
right.
Unless they feel that if they portray a certain type of behavior, you will behave in a certain way to give them what they want. They are very manipulative. So they will do exactly what you need them to do one day to get what they want. And the next day, as soon as they've gotten it, they're right back to their self.
Oh my goodness.
You have to see a narcissist for who they really are. Okay? their personalities, they're good at turning on the charm. You are wondering, how would
Yeah,
you even?
somebody said, so one of the Marsha Ann said, I think we're saying, I had said about being cocky, and she was saying they're more like charming versus
Yeah,
cocky. So
yeah, man.
yes.
And remember, they think that no one is as smart as them. Donald Trump. No, no one
Yes.
is smart as them. They know it also. They come up with all of the grand ideas. They come up with all of these great promises of what they can do. And a lot of them are really good in their work setting because they're a people person because God, what? Everybody has to love them. So they
Ah.
in this, I need to be the one on stage. Everybody sees me kind of thing. I'm good for everybody. So you need to really see them for who they are. So despite their narcissistic type of personality, you want to understand, really that you need to resist certain things, right? Um, and they're not going to waste time on things that are unimportant to them. So if it's important to you and it's not important to them, it's not going to happen. So
Wow.
something else that I need you to do, if you choose to live with a narcissist, you need to stop focusing on them. So sometimes in order to avoid the arguments and avoid the heaviness in the relationship and avoid the conflict in the relationship, even at home or even if it's a work relationship, what you try to do to our narcissist is just give them the attention that they need, um, agree with them all the time, whether whether it's negative or positive. You just say, I can't bother with the argument, so this is what they need. Let me just give them. And
But is
you
that sustainable though, Doc?
No, it's not sustainable. And something else that people do is they focus everything on them because they know that when they focus all of their energy on a narcissist and even away from themselves, and they give them all of that, whether it's positive or negative attention, a narcissist just wants all of the attention. And you might find that you have completely forgotten about your own personal self. So in order to deal with a narcissist, you have to focus all of your attention on that person in order to get some kind of semblance of peace of mind. And so if you want to live with them, you need to understand that you have to take time, carve out some me time for yourself. You can't focus everything on them, right? And you also have to speak up for yourself. So remember I was telling you before that you tend to just kind of like give them everything that they want.
Mm-hmm.
It's their way. And you cannot pick your battles with a narcissist because you pretty much have figured out how it's going to end. So you pick
Right.
your battles. But
So it
you need
doesn't. What you're saying is that it doesn't even make sense to have that conversation because they don't think they have a problem. So even telling them how you are feeling
but they
has
don't care
no
about
consequence to them whatsoever.
how you feel. They don't care about how you feel. And I tell you, there are a
Not
lot.
even their own children.
No, they don't care about how you feel. You need to just listen to what they're telling you. They don't really care about the effect of what they're telling you is having on you. And so even whether it's your boss, whether it's your parent, whether it's your husband or your girlfriend or your wife, it doesn't matter. So if you try to speak up for yourself, do it in a gentle manner, shouting at a narcissist, it's going to
Doesn't
be
work.
like, it's not going to work. But you can speak your mind. You can create your own boundaries also. You do not have to tolerate abuse. It's not that they're unable to understand. You don't have to tolerate abuse. Um, well, actually, you need to prepare yourself that they may not understand because they're so one-track minded.
Right.
But you can still speak your mind. And I still think that you should set clear boundaries because a narcissistic personality, they're very self-absorbed, very self-absorbed. I'm sure the guests that you have watching you that have this experience will tell you
Yes.
that they are very self-absorbed.
They
Um,
said that focus trying to facilitate them makes depletes them.
yes,
Mhm.
exactly. Which is why I'm saying
Mhm.
not only do you have to set your boundaries, and I love that word. Whoever tell that person perfect. You
Yes.
do feel depleted because you are literally pouring the best part of your energy into this person because you know that that's what that person wants and that's how that person that thrives. And so when you finish pouring the best part of your emotions and your everything into a person and nothing is reciprocated, at the end of the day, you are going to feel drained. You're going to feel depleted. You're going to feel defeated, which is why if you're going to remain, you have to step back and reset. You have to take time to take care of you, to come back again if that's what you want to do. A narcissist feels entitled to get what they want. So if they have to invade your privacy, go through your things, snoop through your personal stuff, that's what they're going to do. And then tell you how they feel about doing it. That's what they're going to do, because there's not going to be I invaded your privacy. So what? I did it because, and they're going to justify why they did it. And as far as they're concerned, they're right. So do you have any questions?
Yes. All right.
By the way, the consequences don't matter to a narcissist. So if you say to them, if you go through my things, this is what's going to happen. So you see how difficult it is to live with a narcissist. Because oftentimes you set consequences as part of your boundaries. So your tolerance level, your consequences, if you do this, this will happen in the relationship. I will not tolerate that. To a narcissist, it don't matter. It doesn't matter.
So one person said, so if you're okay,
personally, will they make any changes? So if they think that the consequences is affecting them personally,
yes,
then they're not going to make any changes. And it's really, Marsha, you're absolutely, yes, I'm sharing this candidly with you. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, Marsha, and you recognize that there is no change that's going to take place in this individual, and you are going to be treated in a certain way, you're going to expect a pushback from a narcissist. Expect them to respond in a certain way that is going to hurt your feelings. And if you can't remember that it's not your fault, it's going to be very difficult to stay. It's going to be very difficult to stay. And that's something else that I remember I was telling you about, how a narcissistic parent can negatively influence your their child. Then it's that child needs to understand that it's not their fault.
So you have to, on the other hand, if you happen to be in a relationship, or the parent of your children happens to be a narcissist, I read where they said both wife or husband and children needs counseling to cope with a narcissist.
Yes, because a lot of times people accept. I see your question, Valerie.
Yes.
A lot of the times people just admit to the blame and accept the blame, so that they don't get into just to create peace.
Yes.
And I say that, and so you have to understand that a narcissist will not admit to making a mistake, and they will not take responsibility for hurting anyone in the relationship, right? And so what they tend to do is they will project their own negative behavior into the relationship or into someone. So rather than accept the blame, they were like, oh no, this is all you, even though it's them. So more likely when they're doing something wrong, Trump again, they will say, you are the one that's doing it. This is what's happening.
So after a while, you start feeling like you crazy.
Yeah, well, everyone can see that this is actually how you are, but they're the ones that are saying, you are doing this. And then what happens in a relationship is, because you just don't want the arguments and you just feel so defeated, that you just accept the blame. But you have to understand the truth. You have to understand that you are not the one to blame. And lastly, get support system. If you're gonna stay, you need.
Not hearing you. Not hearing you.
So did you hear me?
No.
Right. So, not hearing me?
No, I'm hearing you now.
Hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that you need to, if you can't avoid the person, try to build up a healthy relationship and support system network, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time. This sounds bad, but again, if you're going to stay, you don't want to spend a lot of time within a dysfunctional relationship with somebody that has a narcissistic personality. Deplete your emotions, feeling emotionally drained, and have no one that can help to reset your emotions. So how can you tell if your child is heading in that direction? Well, you can look look for the same type of personality traits. Um, you can look for if your child has this high sense of their own self-importance, and if they have this very high desire to have be admired, and have you have to be constantly trying to boost their self-esteem. You have to be constantly praising them, or else they'll get angry and lose their temper. um, they just show a lack of empathy for other children, and they don't really care what other children say. It's really all about them. They don't want to share their toys. They don't want to even share their parent. You need to make sure don't pay any attention to my brother or sister. I need all of the attention. And I'm always right. I'm always right. And you don't know what you're speaking about. And so it's that kind of personality trait that perhaps could be something else. I'm not going to diagnose a child, on Facebook, but it could just be, those are the generalized um, type of narcissistic characteristics that are out there.
Let me ask two questions because I've never heard of persons who are calling persons narcissistic. I've never heard them being labeled as angry in terms of violent. Then they're not usually violent.
So, you've never heard of a narcissist being violent?
Not physically violent.
I've heard of one or two. I've come into contact with one or two,
Yes.
with a few of them. But remember, it just all depends on how far you push them.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I get you.
So are you how if you are going to clash with a narcissist? So what we've been speaking about is how do you get along with a narcissist?
Yes.
But if you no treatment cannot help a narcissistic person, because a narcissistic person does not think they need treatment. So getting a narcissistic person to go for counseling for narcissism is next to impossible. So no, treatment can't help a narcissistic person, because a narcissistic person does not think they need treatment. Understand? So how do you manage the impact on the children? Great question again, Marsha Ann. Again, you do need to get a child into counseling, because that child may be experiencing self-esteem problems. You need to empower that child. You need that child to understand that a lot of the things that are taking place is not their fault. So when they're being negatively targeted, when they're being told that they can't do anything right, you need that child to understand that that is not the reality of the situation. And in a very age appropriate way, because you want to be able to speak to the child in the life cycle of that child. So if the child is a lot older, in the teenage stage, then sit down and speak to them about narcissism. If it's a much younger child, then back up that child, that child's emotions and personality, and what they can do, and perhaps more positive words of affirmation, and let them know that no, this is not right. No, that child can get very confused, because they'd be like, but why is this parent telling me this? And then this parent is telling me that. But a lot of times what takes place in the home is that the other parent that's not a narcissist tends to withdraw, tends to kind
Right.
of like, because they
Because they're
are
defeated,
themselves.
them mash up.
Exactly. And I love that word that was used, defeated. So they are themselves so emotionally damaged and defeated that they're unable to help their children.
So they
And then the
definitely
child
need to go for counseling.
Right, and then the child begins to resent both parents, but resent the one that's not a narcissist even more, because they can't comprehend. Why would you allow me to go through all of this and you don't say anything at all? You don't see anything wrong with what this person is saying. You don't see anything wrong with the abuse, the emotional and psychological abuse that I've been through. And so it's a family system type of counseling and intervention that will be needed.
Wow. This is some heavy stuff. Do you find are you aware if more males are narcissistic than females, or is it even into, or one tends to be more narcissistic than the other?
I know more. I personally know more males, but I know that there it exists in both genders, and I really, Sandra, I can't tell you a percentage. I
Yes,
can't put a figure. I'd have to go and look at that figure up for you,
right,
but I know that it exists in both.
right. Okay.
Experience both.
This is some tough stuff, because this is real life, and this is affecting the children as well as the, and this is not something that can be helped with medication. That is the challenge that everybody is having. It can't be fixed. So if you love this person, I mean, you're pretty much saying that if you really want for self-preservation, you really have to maybe step away.
And I want to even make it more complicated for you. So persons that present with signs of narcissism, persons may present with signs of narcissism during the mild to moderate hypomania type of bipolar disorder. So I
Okay.
just like briefly just let your audience know that when you're looking at the symptoms, like, so if you're going through that, because bipolar is also a very common mental health illness that exists in a lot of people, and they're just not quite sure what's going on.
Is
So
bipolar what do you call it now? A genetic thing, or is it
can be
caused by
can be
trauma?
can be genetic. It
Okay.
absolutely can be genetic. Yes.
But that
Um,
can be managed by medication.
yes. Yes. Yes, it can. It
Okay.
can. Medication and therapeutic interventions, both.
Okay.
Both, right?
Ho- yes.
So during the mania or the hypomania stage, and this is either in bipolar disorder 1 or 2, you know, those individuals are just abnormally upbeat. They have this abnormal upbeat attitude, like for what you don't even know. The
Right.
wild, jumpy energy level. If you're living with somebody with bipolar disorder and they're going through that manic state, they're probably insomnia is a symptom of it. So they're up and they're running up and down the house trying to reorganize everything. They're pulling down stuff. It's. I mean, I've had clients come in and they're like, I'm exhausted, but I still can't sleep. And last night I redid my entire kitchen. I changed
Mhm.
around my closet, and they just can't settle, right? They're easily agitated. Um, they have this, and this is where you can confuse bipolar disorder with narcissism, because they have this exaggerated sense of well-being and self-confidence, this euphoria. I have so many clients
Sorry.
that have bipolar disorder that actually think they have a secret hidden superhero talent,
Wow.
like superhero, like you don't see this. So they have this really inflated sense of what they can do. And I did mention insomnia. I mentioned that they have this, they're very talkative, just talkative. And this is when, remember, going through the mania or hypomania stage. They have these racing thoughts, they're easily distracted, poor decision making. And so, and then they slip into the, remember, bipolar disorder, drastic shift in moods. So they go from that mania or hypomania to the depression, which can be very scary because a lot of them, yes, Valerie, a lot of
Sorry.
people that have the bipolar disorder commit suicide. I mean, we've heard so many.
God, again.
It's coming back. It's coming back. Someone, you
Yes.
can hear me. Can you hear
I'm
me?
hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
But I'm
great.
not seeing
So
you.
that, and
Hearing you, but not seeing you.
why aren't you seeing me? Not sure why you're not seeing me. Um, I'm not sure why you're not seeing me. Should I continue talking or should I go out and come back in?
Go out and come back in.
All right.
Like the last time.
Okay.
Sorry, folks. You know it's live show. So, we have to work with the hiccups, but we still bring in the information. This narcissistic thing is a very serious disorder. Many are living with it. Many have um, to protect their children from it, because as Dr. Charles is saying, the children can be really affected by narcissism. So this is something that you just can't sweep under the carpet. This is something that you have to take into hand and be very, very aware of what it takes to, you know, manage this effect, the effects of narcissism. Yes, Doc. Yes, Doc. We are back with you.
Great. So I was speaking about the major depressive episodes that can occur in a bipolar disorder individual, and believe me, this is a very scary time for family members, and for partners, because you don't even want to leave that person alone, but that person don't want anybody around them. They're a very depressed mood. They have a loss of interest in or pleasure in almost all activities. They weight loss, so two extremes, either drastic weight loss or gain. I know someone that was in that depressed state and within that time had lost 10 pounds.
And let me ask you something, Doc. With bipolar, is the depression, does it even have to be realistic? Meaning,
What do you
does it
mean?
have to be something that, something happened, or it's just a mood swing, or because sometimes somebody is depressed and to you there's no obvious reason. Is it like recessive, or it has to be something current happening, or it's just a mood swing?
It's a mood swing,
Okay.
So there's not necessarily any reason to trigger it, but more than likely following the mania or hypomania state, it's usually followed by that major depression, that episode,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So again, insomnia, restlessness, as I had mentioned before, or that slowed down behavior, loss of energy. And then here's where it gets really scary, when they start feeling worthless or guilty, the lack of concentration, very indecisive. And this is where they start having those suicidal ideations or gestures or thoughts or even and that's the part where it can get really scary. And there have been a lot of suicides due to this major depressive episode, which is why one of the things that I do with my clients is to teach them how to, what are the little things that you can do just to force yourself out of a state. And it's kind of, again, it's a mental thing, but as little as opening up the curtains to let light in,
Right.
going to sleep, pulling the curtain, pulling the sheets off from over you and lying on top of them, getting up and spreading your bed, go take a bath, opening your door, because when you're in that major depressive state, you don't want to be around any family. So open your door, walk outside. Little things that can push you back into reality a little bit. Some people just have to cycle through it and need to be watched, literally on suicide watch during it. But so far, it seems to have worked.
Yes.
And I must say, declare my hand, all of my clients that are bipolar are on medication, in addition to getting coping skills, life skills, coping skills to manage themselves, to manage how to interact with co-workers, to manage how to interact in their relationships. So in addition to the medication, they are doing therapeutic interventions.
Okay. All right. We have Page. The conduct disorder, which in most cases leads to antisocial personality disorder, which later leads to Jamaica having a high crime rate, should be looked at. Many of the children in Jamaica do go undiagnosed with CD, but they do have positive symptoms.
What are you speaking about? Is this person speaking about psycho?
Conduct disorder, she says. She's
Oh,
talking about conduct disorder.
there are many different types um, of conduct disorder. Let me tell you, Ministry of Education is having a very big problem with behavioral disorders
Right.
with children, and matter of fact, I'm working with them with this. But it oppositional defiance disorder, just a complete defiance towards authority. So I lost the name of the person that just brought up that question about the conduct
Oh,
disorder.
sorry. Her name is Paige.
Yes, but Paige is absolutely right. There is a conduct disorder, behavioral type of disorders, and the others, even oppositional defiant disorder, which are all types of behavioral disorders, is a big factor. And again, nature versus nurture, and how these children have been exposed or not exposed to life skills. A lot of challenging children. When you actually look at them, they're challenging perhaps because of a learning disorder and they're not able to connect, or a lack of life skills. And what I'm finding is that a lot of children that I'm working with that have been dubbed challenging, or that have been dubbed having a behavioral disorder, a lot of them just lack life skills, lack a certain type of structure, and have been exposed to negative factors, both negative and ineffective parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Parents have a significant effect on their children. And so,
Absolutely.
retrain and reframe their thoughts on how to behave and how to survive, even in their community. A lot of these children, how we live is very different. I had a
Mm.
young boy that was in third form, that he was the troublemaker. And I remember the teacher saying that she was teaching him science. He wasn't doing anything. For once, she didn't say anything to him because he was just silent in class. It was lunch right after class. She sat down in the classroom. He didn't get up. And she sat in the classroom and ate. And she was wondering why this boy don't get up. But you know what? He wasn't giving any trouble, so she went leaving.
Yes.
And he got up and he shouted out, like, I got it. I figured it out. And she's like, what you figure out? You just figure out what we were just talking about in class. And he's looking at her like she's crazy. And she's
Yes.
like, Miss, I figure out how to get back home by climbing over the fence and going over my neighbor roof to get in, because gunman at the front of my building.
Uh,
I can't go.
yes.
And so the safest place for him to have been in school. And when we look at the environmental factors that has a negative effect on the children, and we can understand why they're behaving in the way that they behave. There are some children
Yes.
that do not carry a gun for the gang. Their family is dead. So don't be so quick to judge when you see a child displaying conduct disorder, because you have to look on everything, homeschool and community, and what's going on there. It's
But
more
doc, it's so difficult to catch when a class has 45 children. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? And the parents are not equipped, whether
Mm-hmm.
educational wise or mentally, because they're busy, whether they, work outside of the house from morning till night. They don't even see what's going on with the child. They stick a device in the
Mm-hmm.
child, in the hands of the child, and they're gone about their business because they just want the child to keep quiet. So,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these things are what these kids become adults, and then as adults now, they're this is what is happening in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really wanted to deal with this mental health challenge because I would say in the last 2 years, I've had like several persons coming through my business in terms of for employment that have mental issues that went either undiagnosed or it wasn't declared from upfront. And I kind of, you see the signs and you kind of watch it and then you kind of ask two questions and then you kind of hear that they're on medication and then you kind of, but they stop taking the medication because the medication make them feel a particular way, and so
I
because they
am.
don't take the medication they go off, and this is when now you find out. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't say anything
Yeah,
because of the
I'm,
stigma that's attached, or maybe they don't feel like they'll be employed.
yeah, I'm not sure what they would be using the medication for, but a lot of the times people take medication to control their anxiety and their
Yes,
depression. Really, what they need to, and what that medication does is suppress and numb the real problem. So you're really not fixing the problem. You're not addressing what the problem is. And what a lot of the times, what I do, and this can tie into what Marcia is asking, culturally people feel that one is crazy when they are seen by a therapist. So what language do we use to engage anyone in therapy so it's not seen in a negative way? And I'm so glad you asked that question, because a lot of the times when someone comes in and they're on medication for anxiety, what it is that I try to do, oftentimes through some form of cognitive behavioral therapy, is to get them to, or regression therapy, looking at what built up their programming, what programmed them, but looking at their thoughts. What are you thinking? Is it an irrational thought? Because if you're having an irrational thought, then what's going to happen is that that irrational thought is going to go into irrational feeling or emotion, and then that's going to be displayed with irrational behavior. So what you're seeing in your workplace is, I'm thinking this way, I am feeling this way, so I am doing this.
right.
And then oftentimes we have a buildup of whatever that issue is that has been unresolved, even from childhood. And so when we're exposed to something that triggers it, or something that even triggers a trauma, and you're not even quite sure, so it's not necessarily, Marcia, that so somebody comes in, somebody doesn't come in because they are crazy. Somebody comes in because they're struggling with a life, with a life issue, or they're struggling to figure out what that next best step is, or they're unable, they're so close to a situation, as what happens in a lot of my couples that come in. They're so close to the situation that they're literally unable to see the best solution or scenario. And so they come in, and I'm able to break it down, help them to break it down. I don't tell people what to do. I'm
Right.
able to put persons into such a calm state of mind that we can do regression therapy, that we can literally go back to examine what the problem is, and look at what the trauma is, and how to overcome that trauma, how to create a safe space in their mind. I even teach individuals how to be cognitively fit. How do you rise above adversity? And that's really what cognitive fitness is, because you're going to face adversity in your life. Life was designed to be difficult, Just look at childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what you want to do is, you want to be able to go through that storm and come out at the end successfully. You want to be able to look at your adversity and rise above it successfully. So that's really what counseling does. It helps you to connect to things that you're so close to the situation that you really can't see, and how to strengthen you so that when the next thing comes up, the next adversity comes up, or the next difficulty, you'll be strong enough, and mentally and emotionally strong enough, and cognitively fit enough to overcome whatever that problem is. Managing your emotions, being able, especially for women, to not react to your emotions, but to be able to reason out your emotions, because women are very emotional beings. And even with men, helping them to identify what caused this and not react to what happened.
Right. Get you.
Go ahead.
Shireen says, what's the difference between regular depression, clinical depression, and bipolar?
They're all related. It's just a matter of diagnosis. So bipolar comes with major depression, which is a type of clinical depression anyway. And regular depression, maybe what you're talking about, is it, Shireen, is
Yes.
if you're, so from the DSM-5 will tell you that in order for you to be diagnosed as having being depressed, major depression, you have to be in a certain state, depressive state, for a minimum of 2 weeks.
Okay.
But if you're sad today, if you're sad for 2 days, if you're sad for, you're going through, you're grieving, or you're just having a bad day, you're in a bad place in your relationship, and you're sad, you're having a sad moment for 1 or 2 days, that's not
That's not
clinical.
depression. That's not depression.
No,
That's norm. That's a normal. That's a norm.
you're having a
Yes.
bad day. you're having a bad day, and that's something that you if you're unable to get out of that, then come talk to me, because that's what we do. We help you to my job, and I'm very serious about it. I'm passionate about it. My job is not to keep people in counseling. It's to empower and to strengthen the mind so that you can go out.
Right.
I don't want someone to be in the center years and years, and every day you have to come and you're dependent on me. And most of my clients will tell you that at the end of the day they feel empowered. Yes, Marsha, I actually do. I offer both online and in office counseling. I do have quite a few people overseas that are online. So yes, I do. And yes, I do children. I have a lot of children. I actually
Okay.
work with a lot of high schools and children homes. Hey,
Okay.
Kurt.
Kirk says, "Hi, Doc. I have a friend, 50, that hardly wants to do anything. She thinks she doesn't need to talk to her good friends for years because she can't bother and no longer feels there is much to talk about. Her routine work, home, and a lot of IG. Could that be a sign of depression?"
Oh, cancer, that is depression. I would tell her to give me a call. That's just too generalized. She could be sad. I don't know how long she's in a certain state, so there would have to be some other types of symptoms. Is there any, other than her just not wanting to talk to her friends, and why she's withdrawing, and is there a reason why? And you said, how long has this been going on? And there's just so many
We'll
reasons
have
why
to
people
give more
withdraw.
details. He has
Yeah.
a follow-up question by saying another case someone has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but now seems okay. But what would you recommend talk therapy frequently?
I would recommend that if you do have schizophrenia, that you do kind of, yes.
What is schizophrenia? What is the difference between schizophrenia and bipolar? But is
Um,
there a
schizophrenia
schizophrenia is multiple personalities?
it's a clinical diagnosis that has multiple etiologies. It comes with people experiencing auditory hallucinations, which is the hearing voices,
Yes.
delusions. So you're fixated on certain delusional beliefs, or I use the same word to describe it. Hallucinating, so you're seeing things, and of course it also comes with an impaired cognition, disturbances. You hear someone speaking to themselves, inability to make certain decisions. Some people are combative, some people are not. Some people go into a state of a comatose state, just staring. So there are different types of how it can present.
Well, I would assume that like these would be maybe possibly be easier to diagnose or be identified. We only have 2 minutes since you say you have to come off in 1 hour. But what I want to ask is for the persons who are the caregivers of these people.
Uh-huh.
How do they manage? In our Jamaican situation, are we equipped to manage the level of depression? Because we heard a lot about depression during COVID. A lot of people, suffering from depression because of loss of work, loss of loved ones, staying home. Some people are not homebodies, so having to stay home day in, day out, it was a problem. How does the loved ones cope with all of this kind of we're not equipped. We're really not equipped, and that's why I think
I'm sorry,
we
you mean
treat
that
it
who
so
is not equipped?
flippantly.
The family members not equipped, or
The
the
family
medical.
members, in terms of, okay, for example, we have had situations in Jamaica where man ending up cutting off girl neck or whatever, or woman stabbing man, and they were in the house showing symptoms for how long, and you hear them saying things like, why, she did look like she was going on away, but we never did think say. And, I think they're kind of out of their depths, not knowing what to do, where to carry them, how to handle it, how to deal with it in the household because you love them, so you don't want to put them in an institution or whatever. How do we manage this kind of situation?
I would suggest that you get professional help, and not wait until it's too late. In other words, some kind of self harm is done. So the most that I can do is encourage to find a psychologist or a psychiatrist that can control whatever the mental health disorder is, and then create a family system type of intervention that can guide you through how you can tolerate, deal with, cope with, coping skills, and also manage the emotions that will come with living with someone with a mental health illness.
Right. And if they are violent, is there any setup in Jamaica where you can call somebody to assist to come in? I don't know what the setup is in terms of this kind of illness. We know if somebody gets shot or somebody gets stabbed, you call the ambulance or whatever, or they're sick at home, you call the ambulance.
They
But
do
this is
have,
a different kind of because they can be violent.
well, they have community health aides. They have
Okay.
community workers that if you're in that type of violent situation that you can call and public, and someone will come that can assist in that area. For domestic violence, because that can happen, intimate partner violence due to some form of mental health illness. The police is also equipped and trained. I know I did the training. And there are stations that you can go to where you will be placed on timeout. They do have domestic violence. Um, oh, what's the word? This is what happens when you don't eat all day.
Sorry to have taken you from your dinner, Doc. You're so finished.
That the police stations that you can go to and get the appropriate assistance where they will refer you to other persons. And Jam Psych and my colleagues of psychologists and psychiatrists, we are actually very well equipped to manage and assist Jamaica with mental health. And I must say that proudly, because when I see a lot of my colleagues doing the same thing as what I'm doing, streaming and helping, especially during COVID time, I was proud to know that we were, as frontliners, helping, especially with even the medical professionals, to cope with being on the front line. And this is where I saw a lot of psychologists step up to do what I do, which is to assist, to make sure that our frontliners were mentally stable because they went through their own depression, seeing
Right.
cope with and exposing themselves in such a way. So we are equipped as far as medical and psychologists are concerned for mental health. For a person who can't afford professional help, where do they go? Who do they turn to? Um, I do know that
Bellevue, Bellevue, Bellevue is still open.
who
Bellevue,
Bellevue
Bellevue is still open. No?
open, but the clinic there is psychiatric clinics at KPH and at
Okay.
the at
Oh, there's psych wards. There are psych wards.
psych wards. There's Ward 21. So there are places that you can go and government clinics that you can go to that you can get referral to or from.
All right.
But you
So,
know what?
yes.
Checking with private professionals, because I'm not saying that I don't charge, but what I'm saying is that sometimes it's not always about the money.
Right.
And so still check in with your private professionals, because they may themselves be able to refer you to someone, or they may just help you.
Right.
So
Where
check in
can
anyway.
okay? When I'm gonna ask you your last question. Well, not question. I want you to just help persons in a few sentences understand that there's no um that mental illness is a real illness, and how can they take it serious and understand that they're not supposed to put these people in a box, and label them and put them in a corner and discard them, because real people have real issues.
Let me
So
tell
in
you
a
this.
sentence or two, and then when you're finished, can you tell us where we can find you in terms of a number, an email, an address, so that persons out there who have, as I can see, have real issues with how they can find you.
Okay, so I'm located at 10 and a half Lady Musgrave Road. And my number, you can WhatsApp me or give me a call. My number is 876-868-3290. And I do answer my WhatsApp. Please don't leave a voice note. Don't answer the voice note. Digital is not kind to me. But WhatsApp me or text me, or you can send me, you can contact me on Instagram at the Phoenix Counseling Center, or on Facebook, or you can email me at Phoenix Counsel. Let me spell it: PhoenixCounsel And for those individuals that are struggling, and like I said, you don't have to have a disorder. You don't have to have a clinical diagnosis. You could just be struggling with daily activities. You could be struggling with trying to plan a future. I do have a lot of young adults that are tertiary students that are just trying to get through college. So it could be anything that you're struggling with. It could be trying as a child, understanding what your primary learning, your primary learning skill is, so that you can actually learn in the classroom.
Because
It
everybody
could
learns differently.
learns differently.
Right.
Connect to your teacher. It could be families wanting to reconnect because of something happened. You could be experiencing a trauma. You didn't have any mental health illness before, but you experienced a trauma. You were in a really bad car accident. Now you're afraid to drive. So it could be anything.
Right.
And so don't judge yourself. When you come to a psychologist, you're in a safe space. And I'm speaking for myself.
Right.
Safe space, free of judgment. And so you can say anything and know that it's going to be held in confidence. It's not going to be used against you. And what we will do is we will work it out step by step. And I offer my WhatsApp services because I like it when my clients are having a bad day and they can just check in. Hey doc, I'm having a bad day. I have people WhatsApping me, and I'm not saying that I don't sleep, but I have people WhatsApping me at 3 o'clock in the morning because they had a nightmare. I need
Right.
to know that they know that they have someone to reach out to. So if I'm awake, I'll answer. If not, I'll answer in the morning. But I like reaching out to my clients, and I like my clients understanding that I'm here for you no matter what.
Right.
So that's how I operate my center. Even my kids, my high school kids, even everybody has a cell phone, so they know that they can reach out to me. And I tell their parents, allow them to, because a lot of the things that they say to me, believe me, they do not say to their parents, right?
Yes. Doc, I'm really happy you joined us this evening, because there has been, because I've had quite a few series, and a lot comes up about the mental wellness of persons, and the struggle is real. And now we just went further today by breaking it down, by discussing being persons having bipolar disorder, or persons living with narcissism. And a lot of people are not even aware of narcissism. They just call the person miserable, or the person wicked, or the person, they have different labels because they don't know what it is. So I
Mm-hmm.
think we have enlightened our guests to know that these things are real. My Facebook fans and my Facebook peeps and my Instagram peeps and my YouTube peeps, do your research. If you are living with persons with these issues, if you yourself are having issues, Dr. Patrece Charles is here. She's at the Phoenix Center.
Yes, Phoenix
Phoenix Center.
Counseling,
Phoenix
the Phoenix Counseling Center. Just go on Instagram and look me up.
Counseling.
Phoenix.
Right. Just she's on Instagram, and you're on Facebook as well, right? You're on
I'm on
Facebook as
Facebook.
well, right, Doc?
Yes.
Right. So
At Phoenix Counseling Center. and Instagram.
Absolutely. So
And
what
we're
we
on Twitter
are,
too.
right. So what we are working towards, friends, is a better Jamaica. You cannot be a better individual if you are not mentally stable, if you're not mentally well, if you're not happy at home. Because if you're not happy at home, then you go to work and you're unhappy, or you bring your unhappiness to work, and it's a cycle. The being mentally unwell or mentally unstable, you didn't go to the supermarket and purchase it. Things happen.
And maybe someone just needs to talk. So
And
as
maybe you just need to talk, and maybe you don't want to
someone
talk to a
that
friend,
all
maybe you
this,
don't want
that's
you
what
don't
it
want people
is.
to know your
Talk.
business,
You
right?
just want
And
to
as
vent.
Doc said, it's
Vent.
confidential,
Right.
right?
Just vent without judgment is what a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Doc, for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. I know you're hungry, and I know that you're tired. I just want to
Yeah.
say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of my Facebook friends, my YouTube friends, my Instagram friends. Blessings. I really appreciate it this evening. You
Good night.
sharing your knowledge and insight on these very important topics. Our guests, I'm sure, will go back through our tape and get
Yeah.
these nuggets of information, and I'm sure they'll be calling you. Thanks again. Good night, my friends. See you next week when we discuss another very important topic that affects your lives. Good night. Have a good week. See you next week. Bye.